The first monster I killed gave me enough experience to reach level 2. My status window flashed, made the promotion sound, and stayed at level 1. The second monster should have pushed me to level 3. The same blue light crossed my face, the number refused to change. By the time I killed something powerful enough to make an entire stadium run for cover, I was still level 1. The difference was that I could lift the dead creature with one hand, and the stadium was no longer laughing. 3 months earlier, I stood in the awakening hall with my palm pressed against a crystal pillar. Around me, newly awakened hunters celebrated ordinary miracles. One gained a fire class, another unlocked twin blades. Blake, the loudest candidate in our group, received Lightning Lancer, an advanced combat class with a starting level of 12. Gold sparks climbed his white and gold jacket, while recruiters crowded around him. My crystal gave one weak pulse. A translucent panel appeared above my hand. Name, Ethan, class none, level 1. That was all. The examiner Mara tapped the pillar as if the missing information might fall out. She had short copper hair, amber eyes, and the expression of someone who considered disappointment a scheduling problem. Hit the practice target, she said. I struck the padded dummy. The score barely reached the minimum for an unawakened adult. People behind me whispered defective, empty, and porter material. Blake did not bother whispering. At least the gates need someone to carry lunch. I stepped away from the target. My hand hurt more than the dummy did, so I had no clever response. Mara ordered the system to repeat the test. It showed level 1 again. Then she checked the crystal for damage, checked me for hidden injuries, and finally wrote a red failure mark beside my name. Most candidates would have gone home. I asked for access to the beginner combat trial. Mara stared at me. The trial contains live monsters, then the results should be harder to argue with. That answer earned me 10 minutes in a concrete room with a caged needle rat. The creature was knee-high, hairless, and covered in black spines. It was also the weakest monster licensed for an awakening test. Mara watched from behind reinforced glass while I took a dull training knife. The cage opened. The rat launched itself at my throat. I threw up my left arm, felt 3 spines punch through the sleeve, and drove the knife under its jaw. Hot black blood covered my wrist. The creature kicked twice and went still. A blue message appeared. Experience gained, 40. The pain in my arm vanished. Not faded, vanished. The punctures closed around the spines and pushed them onto the floor. Warmth spread from my chest into my shoulders, legs and hands. My body felt denser, as if someone had replaced every soft part of me with braided cable. The status panel chimed, level 1. Mara entered before the cleaning team. She looked at the dead rat, then at the smooth skin beneath my torn sleeve. Did you have a healing skill before awakening? I didn't have any skills before awakening. She tested my grip strength. The reading had nearly doubled. A second punch against the dummy scored well above my first attempt. My mana, which had been too low to register, now produced a thin blue shimmer around the sensor, yet my level had not moved. Mara ran the trial twice more. I killed 2 more needle rats, and every result followed the same pattern. No new level, no unlocked class, no skill selection. My strength, speed, durability, and mana all rose after each kill. Meningsta, mysotramish, meaning need a forward. She leaned against the console and read the numbers in silence. Experience is supposed to fill the level gauge. Maybe mine is leaking. It isn't leaking. Her eyes moved to the cracked handle of the grip tester. It's going somewhere. The hall system still judged me by level and class. It denied me a combat license automatically. Mara could not override that result, but she found the next best thing, a provisional porter permit. I would carry supplies inside low-rank gates under supervision. I would not be allowed to claim monsters, choose routes, or fight, unless my life was in immediate danger. For the first month, veteran hunters treated me like movable furniture. That suited me. Low-rank teams ignored the smallest creatures while chasing valuable targets. I cleaned up cave beetles under supply crates, finished wounded mud imps that crawled behind the formation, and crushed tunnel leeches trying to latch onto my boots. Every kill sent the same warmth through my body. My number stayed at 1, while the rest of me changed. I learned to hide the changes quickly. When a supply box became too light, I carried 3. When my running speed passed the team's fastest swordsman, I arrived late on purpose. At night I tested myself in an abandoned freight yard. First I bent a steel bar. A week later I tied one into a knot. By the end of the month I could jump onto a warehouse roof without a running start. Mara tracked my readings after every expedition. She never congratulated me. She simply replaced broken testing equipment with stronger equipment and told me to stop pretending I was tired. Your raw attributes are rising without level multipliers, she said after I cracked a reinforced plate. That should be impossible. It would be more useful if impossible came with a combat license. Bring me proof that the system cannot dismiss. The opportunity arrived inside a gate so harmless that Blake's Academy group used it for their first field evaluation. I joined as a porter with 2 packs and strict instructions not to interfere. Blake led the candidates through a forest of blue mushrooms, enjoying the way his lightning made every shadow jump. He killed moss wolves with bright spear thrusts and paused after each strike so the observation crystals could capture his best angle. I almost respected the commitment to presentation. Mara walked beside the rear group and scored their formation. I noticed the gate trembling before she did. The air turned metallic, blue mushroom caps folded toward the ground, and every small creature fled deeper into the forest. The team's guide raised a hand. Stay in formation. The ground burst open beneath him. A horned hound climbed from the crack. It stood taller than a wagon, with stone plates across its back, and a red furnace glow between its ribs. It belonged in a gate several ranks above ours. One sweep of its head threw the guide through 3 trees. The candidates scattered. Blake planted his feet and formed a lightning spear. For the first time, the gold sparks around him looked less like a celebration and more like a weapon. He drove it into the hound's shoulder. The blast shattered one stone plate and filled the forest with smoke. Blake smiled too early. The hound came through the smoke and struck him with its horn. His level-locked jacket flashed, spent its emergency barrier, and launched him into a mushroom trunk. The creature turned toward the candidates sheltering behind Mara. I dropped the supply packs. Mara saw me step forward. Ethan, your life is not currently in danger. The hound opened its jaws. Fire gathered in its throat. It's about to be. I had imagined my first public fight many times. In most versions I had a better coat. There was no time to complain about the wardrobe. I walked between the hound and the candidates. Its fire struck me before anyone could shout. The blast tore a glowing trench through the forest and swallowed my body in orange light. Heat pressed against my skin, but my durability had climbed with every forgotten monster. The attack felt like standing too close to an oven. When the flames passed, my sleeves were burning. I slapped them out. No one moved. The hound lowered its head and charged. Each step crushed mushrooms into blue mist. I caught its horn with my right hand. The ground split behind my heels. Trees shook. The creature's furnace ribs flared brighter as it pushed, but its head stopped a few inches from my face. I had spent weeks hiding my strength. Holding back in that moment would have been less dramatic. I twisted. The horned hound left the ground, rolled over my shoulder, and hit the forest floor hard enough to bounce. Before it could rise, I jumped onto its chest. My fist broke through the stone armor and extinguished the red glow beneath it. Experience gained, 8,400. Power rushed through me with enough force to lift dust from the ground. Every muscle tightened, my senses sharpened, and the blue shimmer around my fist thickened into visible light. Level 1. The hound was much heavier than the monsters from my private tests. I grabbed its broken horn, dragged it toward the stunned group, and discovered that dragging was annoyingly slow, so I lifted the whole creature over one shoulder. Blake had managed to stand. Dirt covered his gold-trimmed jacket. He looked from the corpse to my status panel and then back to the corpse. That thing was already injured, he said. Behind him, the observation crystal replayed the fight in perfect detail. Mara glanced at it. Then the recording will show how much assistance Ethan received. Blake's face tightened. We left the unstable gate immediately. Outside, the academy staff, rescue teams, and several guild recruiters waited for casualties. Instead, I walked through the portal carrying the monster that had triggered the alarm. Camera drones turned toward me. My blue panel floated beside the hound's shattered armor, showing the number 1 to everyone. Mara handed me the provisional license form. You said you needed proof, I told her. I needed enough proof to make the review board afraid of looking stupid. She stamped the form and changed my status to provisional combat hunter. Reporters shouted questions. Recruiters tried to reach me. I set the hound down carefully because its furnace core was worth more than everything I owned. Blake climbed out of the gate a minute later and heard one reporter call me the strongest candidate in the hall. That was all it took. He stepped between the cameras and pointed his spear at me. A porter stole 1 kill, and now everyone thinks he's special. Fight me in the academy arena. If you win, I'll endorse his license myself. Mara folded her arms. You do not have that authority. Then I'll withdraw my objection. That part mattered. Blake's statement that I had interfered recklessly could delay my full license. He expected the threat to make me back down. I looked at the drones, the recruiters, and the hound lying behind me. My first public entrance had happened with burned sleeves and 2 supply packs. The second could be better. Give me 1 week, I said. Blake mistook the request for fear. Need time to find stronger equipment? No. I need a coat. Mara turned away before anyone saw her smile. The academy filled the arena for our duel. Blake's family invited guild scouts, ranking officials, and every candidate who had watched my failed awakening. Massive screens displayed our profiles above the sand. Blake level 18. Lightning Lancer. Ethan, level 1, no class. The contrast drew laughter from the upper seats. I entered wearing a long charcoal coat Selena had sent through one of her recruiters. She was the black-haired guildmaster of Aster, one of the region's strongest guilds, and she had included a note saying that if I ruined the coat, I owed her a demonstration. Blake arrived in a storm of gold lightning. He spun his spear, drove its point into the arena floor, and sent electric branches across the sand. The crowd loved it. I walked to my mark and adjusted 1 cuff. During the week, Mara had taught me the only technique my classless status could access, basic mana discharge. Beginner hunters used it to light crystals, or push weak monsters away. My version had carved a hole through 6 practice walls on the first attempt. The lesson became less about producing mana, and more about preventing the academy from needing renovations. The referee raised his hand. Blake immediately promised to end the fight without injuring me. Your concern is touching, I said. The signal sounded. He crossed the arena in a flash, his spear point aimed at my shoulder, wrapped in enough lightning to break a defensive class barrier. I moved half a step and caught the shaft. Blake pulled. The weapon did not move. He released a current directly into my hand. Gold arcs covered my body, snapped across the sand, and climbed the arena barrier. The crowd leaned forward, waiting for me to collapse. I squeezed the spear. The enchanted shaft cracked down the middle. Blake abandoned it and jumped back. His confidence survived for another few seconds. He lifted both hands, calling every loose arc of lightning into the sky. A spear larger than a tower formed above the arena. The attack was far beyond what a candidate should use in an exhibition, but his advanced class wrapped it in a targeting field that promised to stop at my body. Guild scouts rose from their seats. Mara moved toward the emergency barrier. Selena stayed seated in the front row, violet eyes fixed on me. Blake threw the lightning spear. I raised one palm. The attack struck with a sound that erased every other sound. Gold light filled the arena. The targeting barrier buckled outward, and sand turned to glass around my boots. Blake lowered his arms slowly. He could not see me through the burning haze, so he spread them to the crowd. That is the difference between a class and a defect. The smoke cleared. I still had one hand raised. The giant lightning spear had stopped against my palm. Its point kept drilling forward, throwing sparks past my face, but my arm had not moved. Blake's celebration died one finger at a time. I closed my hand. The entire spell shattered into harmless gold fragments. Then I pointed one finger past his shoulder and used basic mana discharge. A line of blue light crossed the arena. It missed Blake by less than an inch. For one quiet moment, nothing happened. Every practice target behind him split across the center. The cut continued through the reinforced arena wall, traced a glowing line around the empty upper ring, and stopped just before Selena's seat. I had sliced every designated target without touching a person. The wall remained standing long enough for the audience to wonder whether I had missed. Then the top half slid sideways. Wind entered the arena. Thousands of people stared through the open gap at the city beyond. Blake turned around. Half of his broken spear fell from his hand. The referee checked me, checked him, and declared my victory without waiting for either of us to move. No one cheered immediately. The crowd needed several seconds to understand that the fight had ended when I caught the first attack. Selena stepped over a strip of fallen barrier and approached me. Her crimson coat did not have a grain of dust on it. That was a beginner technique, she said. Mara is a thorough teacher. Mara joined us from the opposite side. My instruction included not cutting open the arena. I stopped before the important seats. Selena looked at the precise line ending beside her, and laughed. She offered me a place on Aster's next expedition, not as a porter or candidate, but as her personal observer. The guild was preparing to enter the Obsidian Spire, a sealed black tower that had appeared inside a mountain gate. Its monster population doubled every night, and no team had reached the core. It sounded dangerous, crowded, and full of experience. I accepted before she finished describing the payment. Blake heard the offer while medical staff checked him for injuries I had never given him. He tore away their sensors and demanded a place on the expedition too. Selena gave him one long look. The rear team needs someone with range, she said. He thought it was an invitation to redeem himself. I recognized it as punishment. 3 days later, the Obsidian Spire rose before us, a black needle piercing the red clouds of a mountain gate. Hundreds of winged shapes circled its upper floors. A stone door opened at its base, and heat rolled across the dead valley. My status panel hovered at level 1. Behind that door, I could feel enough monsters to find out whether my impossible growth had a ceiling. Selena put me at the rear of the expedition. She called the position protected. I called it crowded. 30 Aster hunters entered the Obsidian Spire ahead of me, filling the first chamber with summoned blades, barrier shields, and enough glowing equipment to illuminate the black walls. Blake marched near the center in a replacement jacket, striking every winged crawler before I could reach it. He glanced back after his 5th kill. Try to keep up. A shadow detached from the ceiling above him. I flicked a pebble. It crossed the chamber faster than the creature could fall, and punched through its skull. The corpse landed behind Blake without touching him. He turned at the sound. You missed one, I said. The lower floors were built to exhaust ordinary teams. Doors locked until every creature died. Stairways rearranged. Black insects poured from cracks whenever the front line advanced. For me, the tower felt generous. I moved behind the formation, killing whatever slipped through, and each small burst of experience became part of my body. The gains no longer arrived as wild surges. They settled into me with a deep, steady pressure. My steps grew lighter because I controlled more strength, not less. I could hear claws scraping 2 floors above us. Blue mana gathered around my fingers without effort. By the 6th floor, Selena noticed that nothing had attacked the rear team for several minutes. Ethan, she said without looking back, how many did you kill? Enough to improve the coat's survival chances. Blake saw the undamaged charcoal fabric and looked personally offended. The spire sealed at the 10th floor. A wall slammed down behind us, splitting the expedition. Selena, Blake and I stood with 8 hunters on a circular platform hanging over a red abyss. The others were trapped below. Across the gap, a crystal bell swung by itself. Its first note woke the basilisk. The creature climbed from the abyss on 6 clawed legs. It was longer than the arena, armored in glossy black scales, with a crown of glass horns and one enormous violet eye. Each time the eye opened, stone spread across the platform. Selena's crimson blades struck first. They cut bright lines along its face, but failed to pierce the scales. Blake drove lightning through those cuts. The basilisk recoiled, then swept its tail across the platform. Selena blocked most of the impact. 3 hunters still flew toward the edge. I caught 2 by their collars, and stopped the third with my foot before he slid off. Blake mistook the rescue for an opening. He leaped onto the creature's neck and stabbed a bolt between its glass horns. The basilisk screamed. Its great eye turned directly toward him. Violet light swallowed the platform. Stone raced over Blake's boots and climbed to his knees. Selena threw a crimson barrier around the trapped hunters, but gray fractures spread across it with every second. "Retreat to the stairs," she ordered. "We cannot fight its gaze on open ground." The sealed wall behind us did not care. I handed the rescued hunters to Selena and walked toward the basilisk. The petrifying light touched my coat, my face, and my hands. A thin gray crust formed across my knuckles. My durability pushed against it. The stone cracked and fell away before the next step. The creature opened its eye wider. I kept walking. Blake could not move his legs. His jaw still worked. "Why isn't it affecting you?" "It is." Another layer of stone shattered off my shoulders. The basilisk snapped at me. I caught its upper jaw with one hand, and its lower jaw with the other. Its claws dug trenches around us as it tried to close its mouth. I forced the jaws apart until the scales along its neck lifted. Then I tore. The sound rolled down the tower like thunder. The basilisk's head split at the hinge, and violet light poured harmlessly into the ceiling. Experience hit me before the body finished falling. The platform dropped. Chains snapped above us. The entire 10th floor tilted toward the red abyss, carrying hunters, broken stone, and the basilisk corpse with it. Selena buried crimson blades in the wall to hold the team. Blake's petrified legs slid over the edge. I planted one foot on the falling platform and jumped. My shoulder struck the underside of the floor above. Black stone cracked outward. I raised both arms and held the collapsing section over the abyss. For several seconds, the obsidian spire rested on my hands. "Move," I told the others. Selena pulled the hunters onto the exposed stairway. Blake stared up at me from beneath the basilisk's wing. "Are you holding the ceiling?" "I'm also trying not to crush the loot." The basilisk had a violet crystal heart embedded beneath its ribs. I reached through the broken armor with one hand, removed the heart, and tucked it inside my coat. Only then did I throw the ruined platform upward. It smashed through 3 floors and lodged in the tower like a new roof. The sealed wall burst open from the impact. Blake's petrification faded once the basilisk died. He stood without thanking me, which was good, because I would have assumed the stone had damaged his personality. At the top of the spire, we found no treasure chamber. We found a window. The violet heart opened a circular view in the air. Beyond it hung a black object, shaped like a crown, drifting between distant gates. Threads of darkness reached from it into dozens of towers identical to ours. Each spire was feeding it monster cores, level energy, and mana. Words burned around the vision. Null Crown Descent. 7 days. Selena's usual amusement disappeared. She sent the warning through every guild channel. I looked at the distant crown, and felt the weight of the monsters gathered around it. The obsidian spire had not been a dungeon, it was a feeding tube. I closed my hand around the crystal heart. The vision vanished, but one thread of black light remained attached to it. "It knows where the heart is," Selena said. "Good." She looked at me. "It saves us the trouble of finding it." The expedition returned to a crowd larger than the one outside my first gate. Observation crystals had transmitted the basilisk fight before the tower's walls blocked the signal. By sunset, the clip of me walking through petrification had crossed every network. By morning, people were calling me the unranked monster. I disliked the name. Unranked made it sound as if someone had forgotten to file a result. Monster was acceptable. The national champion invited me to a ranking exhibition the next day. Victor was the only active S rank in the region. He had silver hair, pale eyes, a black high-collared coat, and a gravity class that had once pinned a dragon to a mountain. His message praised my unusual strength, requested the crystal heart for public safety, and promised to test whether I deserved a place in the Null Crown operation. Selena read it twice. "He has never invited anyone to share a stage. Then he must really want my crystal. Victor believes levels are order. He built his reputation by proving higher ranks decide every battle. My panel should ruin his evening." The National Stadium held more people than the Academy Arena, and had stronger walls. Mara sat beside Selena in the front section. Blake joined the competing hunters, still determined to reach the main stage before me. I waited in a chair at the edge of the field while Victor demonstrated why everyone feared him. He lifted 12 armored vehicles with one hand. He compressed a summoned giant into a black sphere. He made a level 70 challenger kneel by increasing the weight around him until the stone cratered. Every display was powerful, clean and carefully positioned beneath the largest cameras. I could respect another man who understood presentation. Victor saved me for last. He walked to the center and held out his hand for the violet crystal heart. "That object belongs with someone equipped to contain it. It survived inside my coat. You possess abnormal base strength. That is impressive for level 1, but raw attributes have limits." Above us, the screens placed his profile beside mine. Victor level 92, World Binder. Ethan, level 1, no class. Laughter moved through part of the stadium. It was weaker than the laughter at my academy duel. Rumors had improved the audience. Victor spread a gravity field across the arena. The stone around him sank in a perfect circle. Ranked hunters at the edge stumbled as the pressure caught their equipment and multiplied its weight. I remained seated. The field became heavier. My chair's metal legs bent beneath me, but my body did not. Victor's pale eyes narrowed. He lifted one finger, and the arena dropped another foot. I moved the crystal heart from one pocket to the other. "Is something wrong?" he asked. "The chair." I stood, picked up the crushed seat, and set it behind me. The crowd's laughter disappeared. Victor pulled his field back before it became obvious that he had reached the limit he was willing to show. Then the sky split open. Black creatures rained through the stadium barrier. They had narrow bodies wrapped in strips of floating armor, and each carried a blade shaped like a broken crown point. One struck the upper stands, another landed among the competing hunters. The crystal heart burned against my chest. Victor shouted for everyone to remain calm, which had no effect on the falling army. Blake launched into the air and destroyed 2 creatures with a chain of gold lightning. Selena's crimson blades formed a shield over the front rows. Mara guided civilians toward the lower exits. A mass of armored bodies joined above the stadium, becoming one fist large enough to flatten the western stands. Victor aimed both hands at it. His gravity caught the fist and slowed it, but more creatures poured into the shape. The black mass kept descending. Hunters beneath it tried to maintain barriers that were already breaking. I stepped onto the arena wall and jumped. The impact of my launch left the shape of my boots in the stone. I crossed the stadium and punched through the center of the falling fist. Black armor burst across the sky. The shock wave curved upward, away from the stands, and cleared every creature above the stadium roof. Sunlight returned through a perfect ring. I landed in front of the western crowd, while fragments fell outside the barrier. Mara looked at the untouched seats behind me. You learned control. I liked the coat. Victor landed at the center of the field. The casual expression was gone. He had planned to test me, take the heart, and remain the strongest figure under the cameras. Instead, the breach had turned his exhibition into my entrance. He pulled a black metal disc from beneath his coat. Selena recognized it. That is a suppression engine. Victor drove the disc into the ground. A silent wave crossed the stadium. Every status panel changed. Blake fell out of the air as his lightning vanished. Selena's crimson blades dissolved. Barriers around the stands flickered out. Victor remained upright inside a black halo, protected by the engine's central seal, while all other hunters dropped to a fraction of their strength. Level authority has been compromised, he announced. I am removing it from the battlefield. The engine suppressed levels, class bonuses, and level-locked equipment. Against ordinary hunters, it was absolute. Victor had brought it to make every challenger weaker than him. He had probably expected a level 1 classless hunter to become less than nothing. My status panel floated beside me. Level 1. My strength remained, so did my speed, durability, and mana. Victor looked at his engine, then at me. Your field works, I said. You removed all one of my bonus levels. Before he could answer, the clouds above the city curled into a ring. The null crown descended through the opening, wider than the stadium, and surrounded by a body made from stolen monster armor. Its empty center faced the crystal heart in my coat. The crown drank the weakened hunter's power through their status panels. Their displayed levels fell toward 0. With every stolen number, the giant body grew. A black arm reached over the stadium and formed a blade long enough to divide the city. Victor tried to release the suppression field. The crown wrapped dark threads around the engine and locked it open. His perfect stage had become a trap for everyone except me. I walked toward the stadium exit while S-ranks, guild masters, and famous challengers struggled to stand. Victor blocked my path with a trembling gravity wall. Give me the heart. My central seal still functions. Your best attack bent a chair. That creature consumes levels. Then I brought it the wrong meal. I stepped through the wall. It burst around my shoulders. Outside, the city had become a black twilight. Crown servants filled the streets, following threads of stolen energy toward the stadium. I crossed the First Avenue faster than the cameras could turn. Each punch erased a creature. Each kill added more permanent power, while the suppression field kept every displayed level at 0. Mara reached the evacuation lane with an ordinary steel sword. Without her instructor class, she could barely cut the servant's armor. Selena fought beside her using 2 blades taken from fallen displays instead of summoned weapons. They did not try to follow me. They kept the road clear for civilians. Blake landed beside them without lightning. For once, he looked at the enemy, looked at me disappearing toward the crown, and chose the useful direction. He lifted a collapsed beam so families could escape beneath it. Do not mention this part when you tell the story, he shouted. I'll give you a full sentence. The crown lowered its city-splitting blade. I reached the central avenue, and caught the edge between my palms. Buildings shook along its shadow. Asphalt folded beneath my boots. The blade carried the stolen force of thousands of hunters, but all that power still came through levels and classes. Mine had been hammered directly into bone, muscle, blood and mana, by every monster I had killed. The crown pressed harder. I pushed back. Cracks ran from my hands to the tip of the enormous weapon. Then the entire blade shattered. Black fragments rose like a flock of birds, before blue mana burned through them. The hollow face above me opened. A voice entered every status panel in the city. Level transfer initiated. Cold darkness passed through my body. The crown searched for experience, class power, equipment bonuses, and unlocked skills. It found no stored experience. Every point had already become permanent stats. It found no class to steal, no bonus levels to seal, and no high-rank equipment to switch off. My panel blinked. Transfer failed. Target value, 1. The crown drew back. For the first time, the thing consuming the city looked uncertain. I jumped onto its broken arm, and ran toward its chest. Servants gathered in front of me. One sweep of my hand sent them through the surrounding clouds. The crown grew new armor from stolen levels. I punched through each layer without slowing. Black plates exploded behind me in a straight line. Victor flew from the stadium inside his central gravity halo. He still had enough protected power to move, and pride had carried him farther than judgment. "The core is mine," he shouted. He struck the crown with a sphere of compressed gravity. The giant body bent inward. For an instant, Victor smiled beneath the cameras. Dark threads entered his halo. The crown tore the protection from him and drank the last of his S-rank class. His level plunged from 92 to 0. Gravity vanished. He fell toward the avenue. I could have let him hit it. The impact might have improved his personality. Instead, I caught him by the collar while continuing up the crown's arm. "You cannot defeat it with base strength," he gasped. I threw him back toward Selena's evacuation barrier. "Watch carefully." The crown pulled every remaining servant into itself. Its body expanded above the skyline, a mountain of armor with the black ring burning over its head. 6 arms formed around the hollow chest. Each carried a weapon taken from a different high-level class: flame, ice, lightning, gravity, cutting wind, and white mana. It attacked with all of them. I did not invent a new skill. I did not unlock a class at the final moment. I had strength earned from every cave beetle, every needle rat, every hound, every creature inside the obsidian spire, and every servant I had just erased from the streets. I drove my foot into the crown's chest. The mountain stopped moving. All 6 weapons fractured at once. A circular shockwave opened the clouds from one horizon to the other. The crown's armor collapsed inward around my leg, and I tore straight through its body. Its true core floated inside the hollow center, a small black point wrapped in stolen status windows. It tried to hide behind the names and levels of everyone it had drained. Mara's basic lesson returned to me. Mana did not need a class name to become dangerous, it only needed direction. I pointed one finger. The same blue line that had cut the academy arena crossed the darkness. This time I did not stop it at a wall. It pierced the core, continued through the crown's back, and drew a bright seam across the black ring above the city. For one breath, the colossal enemy remained intact. I turned away. The seam opened behind me. Blue light split the null crown from its center to its highest point. Its stolen weapons dissolved, armor became ash, the suppression threads snapped, and millions of black fragments burned away before they could touch the ground. I landed on the roof of the National Stadium as sunlight returned. Across the city, levels and classes came back. Selena's crimson blades reappeared. Blake's jacket sparked. Victor's panel recovered slowly, stopping far below its former number, because the crown had damaged the power it stole from him. Mine had never changed. Level 1. The stadium screens found me standing above the broken black ring. For several seconds, the city was silent, then every screen displayed the failed transfer message and the raw attribute history Mara had recorded since my awakening. She had finally understood the whole mechanism. My system had never discarded a single point of experience. Instead of filling a level gauge, it converted all EXP directly into permanent strength, speed, durability, and mana. Levels could be suppressed, classes could be sealed, equipment could be stolen, or switched off. My growth had already become part of me. Victor stared up from the arena floor. The field he built to prove rankings decided everything had weakened the entire world except the supposedly weakest hunter alive. Blake approached beneath the roof, his blonde hair blackened by dust. "You waited until you were above the main screen to finish it." The core was positioned there. He looked at the empty sky where the crown had exploded, then at the camera drone floating beside my shoulder. Of course it was. Selena climbed onto the roof carrying the surviving shard of the Violet Heart. A tiny map glowed inside it, revealing gates far beyond our region. She handed it to me. "The Guild Council wants to assign you a special rank. Higher than S? They have not decided what to call it. Tell them level 1 is available." Mara arrived last. She examined the cracked roof, the destroyed skyline beyond it, and my perfectly intact charcoal coat. "You still owe Selena a demonstration," she said. Selena brushed one piece of ash from my shoulder. "I think this covers it." Below us, the crowd began chanting the name they had given me. The unranked monster sounded better when an entire city said it. I opened the map inside the crown fragment. Most distant gates glowed with ordinary ranked colors. One, far beyond the sea, showed no rank at all. A status signal appeared beside it. Level 1. For the first time since my awakening, the number did not belong to me. I closed my hand around the fragment and looked toward the horizon. If another level 1 could call something like the null crown across the world, then my system was not the only impossible thing waiting inside the gates. More importantly, the route was crowded with monsters. My level had never risen. I no longer needed it to.